I have to recognize something when I put this on this morning, that I wish our pioneers had invented this before. I don't know about you guys, but we have to wear tie, shirt, we have to wear a suit because of our pioneers. We respect them, and that's the way we were brought up. I don't know, but sometimes I feel like Dr. McFarlane is there, all stiff with a tie, and I just wished he was our pioneers that had invented the batiks and the batons so that we could be at ease speaking. But perhaps it's not good that we be at ease, because instead of taking 1 hour, we would take 2 hours in our seminars. And yesterday I was over time 5 minutes, so I promised that I will end 5 minutes before today so that I can balance the time that we were together. God is beautifully good with us. And remember, in all of our presentations, like I said yesterday, if you want to keep the GC officers happy, and Pastor Magdiel, he's going to be introduced a little late, but he's here. If you want to make the officers happy, Pastor Kohler, Pastor Magdiel, and Pastor Douglas happy, you always begin your presentations with our theme, grounded in the Bible and focused in the mission. With that, they have approved you already 50%. But let's never forget that as we begin our days, as we have our devotionals, our personal devotions, like I was talking to you yesterday in the seminar, as we lead and we begin our spiritual life every day, let's always remember that we need to focus on the Bible, because when we're focused on the grounded in the Bible, we will be focused in the mission. May the Lord bless us. May the Lord help us as we take this commitment that we need to do. My devotional time this morning, we're going to meditate about a leader in the Bible. And I just love Bible stories. I tried in all of my devotionals, in my sermons, to talk about someone in the Bible, a leader in the Bible, so that we can learn from them. And this morning, the title that I have used for our devotion is, Can God Use You for His Mission Today? Not only now, not only as we are gathered here together, but can God use you in His mission, in everything that we do? In all of our commitments, in all of our presentations, in all of our relationships with our church members and beyond our church members. So the story that I want to share with you this morning is the story about Joshua in the Bible. And the story of Joshua in the Bible, we find it in Joshua, of course, chapter 1 and onwards. But the story of Joshua really begins a long time before we see it, him leading the people of Israel. And the question that I have for you this morning, I'm going to try to show it to you. I am going to try to put it in our hearts that we need to learn from Joshua, because he gives us six reasons of how God can use us today in his mission. Of course, we can get many other lessons from Joshua's story, but I want to meditate this morning on 6 reasons of why or how God used Joshua and how God can use us today in his mission. First of all, we have to remember that Joshua was a man that was born in Egypt. He was from the people of Israel. He was from the chosen people of Israel, but he was born in Egypt. The Bible tells us that as he appears for the first time in the Bible, he appears when he was approximately 20 years old. When Moses asked him and Caleb and the other 10 spies, Moses asked them if they could go over to where the promised land was, just to check it out. Go there. God has something prepared for us. God has always been good to us. We were able to get out of Egypt. He has taken care of us in the desert. And now we're in the verge of entering the promised land. So please, Joshua, Caleb, and the other 10 spies, go into the other side of the Jordan and check it out and bring us the good news about what God has prepared for us. That's the first time that Joshua appears in the Bible. He was 20 years old. And we know the story. He went over to the other side. He came back with a very good report together with Caleb. And not only that, it says that they brought some grapes that it was so big that they had to carry it between two people. Just one how do you call that in English? The grape, the cluster, the cluster of grapes. They had to bring it between two people. And you know that today, because of my responsibilities, I had to travel 3 or 4 times to Israel, also 2 or 3 times in the year to Lebanon and the Middle East. And you know that the Ministry of Tourism of Israel, the logo of the Ministry of Tourism, it's 2 people carrying a cluster of grapes. So it's symbolizing the 2 positive reports that were brought up. But you know, when we talk about Joshua, we see him, we know about him when he was 20 years old. And then the next time we know about Joshua, he was 60 years old. 40 years he was in the desert with the people of Israel. We know what happened, how God led the people of Israel because they didn't believe on Joshua and Caleb, but decided to believe the other spies. So for Joshua, he spent 40 years learning. He spent 40 years accompanying the leader of that time. And the first thought that I have in regards to the story of Joshua, it's what we see in the screen. God uses people who realize that they're weak and limited. Now, you're going to tell me, but I'm sorry, but I don't think Joshua was limited or he was weak. Imagine, he was leading the people of Israel. He was at least 2 or 3 million of them. How can you say that he was weak and limited? But let me tell you, Joshua realized that he was weak and limited. And how do we know that? Because if we go to the book of Joshua, if we go to chapter 1, when it begins to talk about the story of Joshua, and we go to verses 6, 7, and 9, you're going to see there that God repeated to Joshua his command. In verse 6, we read there, "Be strong and of good courage," the Lord tells Joshua, "for to these people you shall divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers to be given to them. Only," the Lord for the second time tells them, "only be strong and very courageous." And then on verse 9, just in case Joshua did not have that clear, the Lord repeats it for a third time. "I have commanded you. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." I tend to think that because Joshua, perhaps he was a little concerned, he felt that he was weak, that he was limited, the Lord had to tell him 3 times, "Joshua, be strong and courageous. Joshua, I tell you for the second time, be strong and courageous. Just in case you're doubting, I tell you, I've commanded to you, be strong and courageous." So people are used by God, as we see it in the story of Joshua, when they recognize that they are weak and limited. And Joshua He was a big leader, but he did recognize that he needed to depend on God, that he was weak and he was limited. And when he realized that, the Lord used him. Now, as you go in front of Jericho on Mount Nebo, in what's today Jordan, I had the opportunity of being there a couple of times, and it's really amazing to see where in Mount Nebo, we remember that that's when the Lord took Moses. And as you see there, and as you're seated there in top of the Mount Nebo, you can see, must be, I don't know, 4 or 5 kilometers away, you can see the Dead Sea. You can see Jordan, the river. You can see Jericho just beyond Jordan. And on clear days, especially on clear nights, you can see Jerusalem on the top of the hills. Jerusalem, it's about, I don't know, 30 kilometers away, 25 kilometers away. Now, imagine what it was for Joshua to think that God finally, after 40 years, God was telling him, you need to be the leader. You need to soldier on. You need to cross the Jordan because you are going to lead the people. For someone that felt that he was weak and limited, that must have been very, very sobering. Because the Lord was telling him, Joshua, you need to be strong and you need to be courageous. Now, God, He loves to display His power when you feel weak and limited. That's the moment that God comes in, and that's the moment you're assured, and people are assured that you are a leader because God put you there. When you feel that you're weak and limited. Pride, superiority, arrogance, racism, prejudicial thinking, human power, human certainty are hideous in the eyes of God. Because God uses people that they feel they're weak and they're limited. Just think of some of the leaders that we find in the Bible. When we talk about Noah, oh, what a leader was Noah. He preached for 120 years about the message. He was faithful. But he was weak. He was limited. You remember? When he wanted to celebrate that the Lord was not going to destroy the earth by rain or by water anymore, what did he do? He got drunk. What would you think about Pastor Roger if one of these days the SSD is going so good and people are being baptized and the SSD keeps on growing the way it's growing, and one day Pastor Roger decides, hey, I'm going to have a couple of drinks, I'm going to celebrate. And we wouldn't accept it. But that's the kind of leaders that we find in the Bible. Leaders that were weak and they felt limited, so God was able to use them. Abraham, another leader in the Bible. But Abraham, he was a liar. And he didn't lie just once, but a couple of times when he was talking about Sarah, his wife. He wasn't only a liar. He was intelligent, an intelligent liar. Because he knew that the brothers of beautiful women, they got presents. He also knew that the husbands of beautiful women, they would not be present anymore. So he lied. How is it that we can balance that? Leaders in the Bible, strong leaders, people that we think that we need to look up to, but they were weak, they were limited in various times. We see Jacob, another liar. We see Moses, an assassin. We see David, a pervert. But God used them, and God will use you when you realize that you are weak and you're limited. Now, the second characteristic that we can see in Joshua's story that I want to bring to you right now is that God uses people who are faithful. God uses people that they know they're weak, they're limited, but God also uses people who are faithful. Imagine if we go back to Joshua chapter 1 and verse 1, it says there that after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spoke to Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' assistant. Now I told you, he was 20 years old when he was sent to spy. The next time the Bible talks about Joshua, he was 60 years old because he was on the verge of them crossing the Jordan River. And we know that the people of Israel spent 40 years in the desert. So he was 60. And for 40 years, we know nothing about Joshua. What did he do? The Bible here tells us that he was Moses' assistant. But he was 60. I told you yesterday that I've been assistant to different presidents, general conference president, division presidents, union president, university president, for already 17 years. Now I look at this. Joshua was assistant to the president of the people of Israel for 40 years. That means that I still have 23 years to go. I'm sorry, but I'm going to be retired in 23 years. I can retire in just a few more years. But you realize there that he was faithful? There were other people that appear in the story of the people of Israel during the desert journey. But not a word is said about Joshua. He was humble enough to just be Moses' assistant. Many times it happens to us. Oh, we're going to introduce you the president of the university. And there we come. Oh, here I am. Here I come. Thank you very much. More applause, please. But that's not the kind of people that the Lord looks after when he chooses those that are going to be servants of him. In the case of Joshua, God was using him because he was faithful. He was never on the spotlight for 40 years. It doesn't seem like he was in a strategic planning committee. He was not helping Moses. Okay, people of Israel, you need to do this. Oh, people of Israel, Moses says that you need to do that. He wasn't in the spotlight at all. But he was faithful. He was faithful to his leader, and he was faithful to God. Now, remember, God cannot use people that think that they're big. I'm sorry. But you know the kind of people that God uses? The people that are small. Because when you're small, you're dependent on God. When you're small, you always try to look for God's counsel. If you think you're big, if you think that you deserve to be there, I'm sorry, but God will not use you. And we see too many examples in the Bible about people that thought that they were big, they were the king, and we know what happened to them. So remember, God uses people that are faithful, like in the case of Joshua. The third characteristic that I want to bring to you this morning on Joshua's story is the fact that God uses people who study and live by his word. Yesterday in my presentation and in other presentations, we talked about the spiritual life of a leader. How we need to be committed early in the morning. And we need to have leaders that study the word and live by his word. If we go back to the verses that I read at the beginning, verses 7 and 8, you will see that the Lord tells Joshua, be strong and of good courage. Only, in verse 7, it says, only I tell you, be strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, so that you may prosper wherever you go. You understand that? Leaders, Joshua, in this case, he stuck by the book, by the Bible, what he had, the Word of God at that time. And in verse 8, he continues on saying, the book of the law shall not depart from your mouth. So he did not only need to read the book of the law, he needed not to depart from it. And he goes on, the Lord goes on saying, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then, and he goes on saying, for then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. You want to be a leader that is successful? Study and live by the Word of God. We should never forget that it doesn't matter how we are seen by everyone else. And yesterday I told in the seminar that I brought you, people will follow you when they see that you live by the Word, that you act according to the Word, and when your personal life is according to the book, according to the law, according to what the Lord tells us. Remember, the Lord told Joshua that he needed to meditate in it day and night. Now, the next characteristic that I see in Joshua that I want you to meditate on it this morning is that God uses people who are patient and wait on His timing. Many times I see leaders, I have already 10 years of experience in the church, so the leader should look up to me and promote me. Hey, I've been working for the church for 30 years. It is time that the church tells me you need to be the president of this, you need to be the leader of that, you need to be in charge of this or that. But remember the story of Joshua. God uses people who are patient and wait on His timing. Imagine that at 20 years old, when Joshua came back from the desert, from being the spy in the desert, if he came back to Moses and said, okay, Moses, I brought you a good report. Caleb and I, we did a good report, so now you should promote me. I cannot just be your assistant. But Joshua waited for the Lord. He was patient and he waited for the Lord's timing. And never forget, many times the Lord may say to you, son, my daughter, I don't want you to be a president. I feel that you're going to be much more useful to the church by being an assistant or by working in a team. You just need to wait for God's time. If we go to verse 11, it shows us there. Remember, it says there, Joshua commanded the officers and the people saying, pass through the camp and command the people saying, prepare provisions for yourselves, for within 3 days you will cross over this Jordan to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess. 40 years Joshua was assistant to Moses. And all of a sudden, you could have said, well, perhaps he should have been promoted from assistant to the president to local leader. And then after being a local leader, he should have been taken to be a more wide leader. But in 3 days, it only took God 3 days to bring Joshua from not being on the spotlight, just being the assistant to the president, to being the main leader of the people of Israel. But we need to wait for God's timing. We need to be patient. Now, the next characteristic of Joshua that I want to bring to you this morning is that God uses people who care about lost people. If we go to Joshua chapter 6, the following page, and verse 22, we will see there, 2 pages, I'm sorry. We will see there how Joshua, now that he was the main leader, he was concerned about lost people. Verse 22 says, but Joshua had said to the 2 men who had spied out in the country, go to the harlot's house. Go to the house of the prostitute. And from there, bring out the woman and all that she has, as you swore to her. Joshua cared for lost people. I'm sorry, but how many of us, if we know that we have to go and bring a prostitute into the church, how many of us are willing to do that? Oh, we preach. The gospel must be preached to all the nations. The gospel of salvation, we have to give it to the Muslims, we have to give it to the Buddhists, we have to give it to the postmodern, we have to preach the gospel. But sometimes, when we have to go and get those lost people, we wonder, is it really God's will to bring a prostitute into the church? I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't think I'm going to take her to the platform. People may get ideas, oh, what's the pastor doing, bringing someone like that to the platform, bringing someone like that to lead in the church. But remember, Joshua cared about lost people. And you know, God commends us. God wants us. He wants to use us when we care about those lost people. You remember? Ellen G. White says that if we had been the only sinner, just me, in front of all these saints, if it was just me that was a sinner in this earth, God would have sent Jesus to die for me. He cares about lost people the same way we as leaders should care about lost people. God uses us to be the leaders that care for lost people. And if you want to go a little further in the Bible, it wasn't just in this place that the prostitute appears, Rahab. If you go to Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 31, in what we call the gallery of heroes of the Bible, who appears there? That prostitute. And the Apostle Paul is not short when he talks about Rahab. He talks about Abraham. He talks about Moses. He talks about the faith of the patriarchs. He talks about many people that we understand. Oh, it's good that those people are in the gallery of heroes in the Bible. But then when he goes to verse 31 on Hebrews 11, it says that by faith the harlot, the prostitute Rahab, did not perish with all those who did not believe when she had received the spice with peace. God cares about the lost people. And we as leaders should follow the example of Joshua, caring about the lost people. I said that I was going to finish five minutes before my time to balance what I took over, but I see my watch and it's 5 minutes already. So bear with me just for 2 more minutes. Number 6, God uses people who intentionally set themselves apart from God. If you want God to use you for your mission, you have to intentionally set yourself apart so that God can use you. If we go to Joshua chapter 3, verses 1 through 5, you will see there that Joshua intentionally committed himself. He set himself apart for God and for God only. As we read the first 5 verses of Joshua 3, it says there, then Joshua rose early in the morning, and they set out from Acacia Grove and came to Jordan, and he and all the children of Israel, and lodged there before they crossed over. So it was after 3 days, we talked about that the officers went through the camp. And they commanded the people, saying, when you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, and the priest and the Levites bearing it, then you shall set out from your own place and go right after it. Yet there shall be a space between you and it, about 2,000 cubits by measure. Do not come near it, that you may know the way by which you must go, for you have not passed this way before. And then verse 5 says, and Joshua said to the people, sanctify yourselves for tomorrow. The Lord will do wonders among you. When you set yourself apart as a leader that wants to be used by God, as you set yourself apart, the way that Joshua set himself apart, the way that Joshua set the people of Israel apart. Sanctify, it says there, sanctify yourself. Sanctify means that you're setting yourself apart for God. It means that you're completely committed to God. When you set yourself apart for God, God will be able to use you for His mission. Never forget that. The story of Joshua, as we have reviewed it this morning, is a story of a leader that wanted to be used by God. It's a story of a leader that set himself apart from God. It's a story of a leader that was humble enough to be used by God. You want to be a leader that is used by God? Please follow the example of Joshua. You will then be great for the Lord and only for Him. May the Lord bless us as we commit ourselves. We are in a leadership summit. We have the best of the best here in the room. I'm sorry that I am in here. I'm not the best of the best, but hanging out by you guys, I consider that the Lord has used us for His mission. Commit to the Lord so that He will be able to use you for His mission. And tell God, yes, God, use me for your mission today.